Golden Girls homes, this is one of my favorite. I've been telling my girlfriends for years, because we have property down in Florida, that, you know, somewhere around 2015, 2020, we're building the Golden Girls home compound. Margarita's on the river. See me afterwards if you want to sign up. But this is just taking off, and I think it's because for so many boomers, we did not move from our parents' home into a marriage necessarily. Many of us went on to college. Many of us just went to work and got roommates. And for many of us, the best years of our lives were when we were living in community, when we were living with our girlfriends or guy friends. And so this is an idea that really resonates with people of how you can help one another. One of the challenges, of course, is the economic model. How do you sell out your third of the house? But it is another one of those things that's kind of under the radar, but nevertheless spreading throughout the country. So what's next? In shifting the paradigm, we have for years made the high mark of successful aging being able to stay in our homes until the very end. And the best situation, like in the case of my grandmother, it took a village of Blanchard Obalskis, my extended family, to come back and make that happen. It was supposed to be 6 months. 6 months turned into a year, turned into 5 years. 10 years my grandmother lived. And so it's not, you can't predict. So, but this idea of, and somewhere along the line we realized we made a mistake because we didn't know to keep her connected to the community. We thought that familiar love was enough, having us there was enough, and it wasn't. She needed the support and love and the reflection back of who she was through the eyes of her peers and her the groups that made her life meaningful. But I still think that what we're going to see in this new millennium is this shift. And many of you have seen your parents go through this. I'm watching my father and his wife go through it now, from staying at home and, quote, aging in place, to a new model that I've been talking about, which is aging in community, of people teaming together and creating small villages, small households, where together we can do it better. So Hillary Clinton made famous back in her days in the White House of it takes a village to raise a child. And what I'd like to leave with a parting thought today is if it takes a village to raise a child, which I think it does, it's going to take a community to care for our elders. And we've talked a lot about and heard a lot about top-down approaches, which are really important, whether it's transportation or changing zoning to allow for Golden Girls homes. All those things are really important. Equally important is what's going to happen at the block level, what's going to happen in your neighborhood, because those are changes that very rapidly that you can see and that you can be a catalyst in your own neighborhood. Everybody can take part. There's something for everyone to do. So I thank you for your time and look forward to conversations with more of you as we go throughout the rest of the day.
Let's take a few minutes to see if you have some questions of the panel, as well as for Phil Stafford and Sue Bozanovsky. This will be your last chance to ask this group of people any questions that you have. They will roam through the breakout rooms, but there's a structure in there that facilitator guides will be following, which I think you will enjoy a lot. So if you have any questions now, there's a mic there, and please come to the mic or to that mic and ask your question.
Gary, this is for you. Are there any plans to extend transportation out into the more rural areas of the county? Wellington, LaPorte, Red Feather?
Not really good ones. You know, the concept of how density and housing emerges very quickly when you start talking about travel out there. Just a rule of thumb, a city vehicle, of whether it's a big bus or a dollar ride type bus, costs about $80 an hour to drive, to operate. So if you're going to send one of those up to Red Feather Lakes and back, and then take the client home again, you've dumped $160 just on that trip. So it's very problematic. There are some efforts afoot. There's some van pool programs to help people, do some travel together. Larimer County does have a limited amount of service out there, something called Larimer Lift in the north, and it's contracted with Colt, City of Loveland down in the south. But really not a lot going out there, and it's just the function of physics. It's the distance, the time and cost it takes to get to a remote place.
That's what I thought you were going to say. And Dr. Birmingham, I've had one question for a long time about why it's so hard to find physicians who will take Medicare patients. I know Medicare places a cap on what you can charge for services, but so does my insurance, which isn't quite yet Medicare, place a cap on what you can charge for services. Is it that Medicare's fees are much lower?
There's a couple of reasons for that. Some of it has to do with training, because when I talk to young physicians, oftentimes they're scared of taking care of seniors because there's so much going on. It's a lot easier to say, yes, throat red, here, penicillin, go, as opposed to somebody who's got diabetes, congestive heart failure, arthritis, et cetera. Not that you have those things. The other issue, the reimbursement is substantially less than commercial insurance, and the paperwork is substantially more. And the penalties are substantially more. If I screw up with a Blue Cross Blue Shield bill, then Blue Cross Blue Shield might call me and say, bad, don't do that. If I screw up on a series of Medicare bills, I might end up in federal prison. So there's some disincentives.
Thanks.
Any others? Okay, here's some announcements for you. The breakout